reduction management, program management, and also in humanitarian assistance and conflict management. I have very closely worked with Laxmi Bhai for half decade in the government, with the policy level, with the field level, with the implementation level. I would say one of his side, which is not known to many, that he engages with young people to enable their participation in the system. As I said, he is working with UNICEF currently. लक्ष्मी भाई आपका स्वागत है.
Thank you so much for such a comprehensive introduction.
I know it is very short intro of yours. I'm coming back to our yet another panelist and a very distinguished and prolific writer. He's a columnist, Mr. Ghasiram Panda. He's very connected to the field. He has created many community-driven successful models in ending child marriage, and he is also a regular host to many shows in the Doordarshan. In that way, he is my brother also. we host different shows in Doordarshan. He's also an advisor to the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and I have also worked with him with the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights when I was a consultant there. And presently, he works as the National Manager of Ending Child Marriage Program of ActionAid India. Welcome, Ghasiram Bhai.
Thank you, Manoj.
So, to set the context, let us begin with a very general understanding of the child rights and child protection system. The child rights system is a very young and emerging field, but it is not airdropped, or it is not foreign, it is not alien to the system of India. It is embedded in the Constitution of India, and we are recommitting ourselves to the international commitments. By saying this, let us understand from Dr. Sunitha Krishnan, ma'am, what is your say on this? How you look at the whole paradigm of change that is happening in the field of child rights?
Thank you so much, Manoj. I am so glad that you started from a very basic premise, because I think it's a very important time for us to review where we are, and whether we understand what we are talking about. As you said, yes, child rights and child protection, some of these lingos and semantics have happened in the last few decades more. But when you look at child protection, what are we looking at? We're looking at safeguarding children from violence, from exploitation, from abuse, from neglect. Where are we standing? Has any of this changed in the last few years? I would say no. Whether it is violence, whether it is exploitation, whether it is abuse, whether it's neglect, all of it in layers have not only become all prevalent, but also become expansive and ever increasing. That is the first fact and first reality that we need to understand. What was there maybe 30 years back is now, doubled and tripled. Having said that, with all the constitutional provisions, the UN CRC provisions, a whole lot of things, what has happened? One, it has brought in an understanding and acknowledgement that children are a constituency, and that constituency cannot or should never be ignored. Two, it has brought in, at least on paper, several very promising and very comprehensive legal statutes, which will go a very, very long way if implemented in the right manner, to put in place mechanisms which safeguards the interest of a child. Three, Government of India as a body has been clearly demonstrating its commitment to restore and honor child rights by bringing very specific schemes such as ICPS and things like that, which has created a systemic provision. So, at one level, we are all positioned in the right way in terms of yes, there is a problem, but and there is a system that has been created to address the problem. Having said that, have we anyway ameliorated the situation for children? Has anything reduced? I would say no. For the larger reason that children are not anybody's vote bank. So they don't figure in big priority list. So while several things happen as a very fashionable gesture, it happens on paper, but when it comes to actual implementation on the ground, between the cup and the lip, there is a big gap, and that comes because there is no political will, there is no social will, there is no community will to end this. So we are standing today at a point where there is something, but also a point where we have to go a very, very long way before we all can, happily say that child rights has been, fulfilled, and every child is enjoying a safe and fulfilled childhood, and can very confidently say that my present is not violated.
True, true, true. I agree. I agree with you, Dr. Krishnan, and thank you for giving this initial thought to the whole panel of the board and the whole audience. Now coming back to Laxmi Bhai, you have been working with the system for last 2-3 decades. What is the change? I'm repeating the same question to you. What is the change you are experiencing? Is there something to cherish on? Is there something to work further? Is there something to ameliorate? Is there something to be happy upon? What is your views on it?
Thank you so much, Manoj. Yes, you asked a very difficult question, but let me try to, answer it in my way. Of course, yes. So there are, positive changes, and we need to celebrate those changes. But as Dr. Sunitha Krishnan mentioned, I want to, we need to sit back and reflect. This is actually the time for us. I mean, when I say us, I mean it includes a range of stakeholders, not just only government. We need to also think about how other sectors, say for example, whether it is corporate sector or civil society organization or community-based institution or traditional institutions, they too have a role to play. When I look at the progress for last 30 years of UNCRC, 3 decades of UNCRC, and 100 years of child rights movement across the globe, it's not just only 30 years. It was started in 1919, the child rights movement. So when I reflect back 100 years history, uh, there has been a lot of ups and downs, but at the same time, within the system, government system, I see there is, a sense of ownership is slowly emerging among the key duty bearers, particularly the law enforcement agency. Currently, I can cite one example, two example here. Like in Odisha, we did in 2018, as you know, this Pari campaign, where the entire police functionaries or machineries, they were part of this campaign, where they police whose usual job is to look at the law enforcement in typical way, where they have moved out and then reach to the community through outreach program and managed to create a large impact at the community level. Similarly, now there is another effort which is happening in Assam, called Assam Shishu Mitra Police Program, where the top leadership is taking charge and heading this entire movement and making trying to put their best effort to change the face of police. in the context of addressing issue related to children. Similarly, when I look at the capacity of staff involved in addressing issues related to child rights, whether it's labor department or education department or health department, slowly it is emerging. But I would say that it's not totally they have changed it, but there are gaps which needs to be addressed within the system, and for which we need involvement of institutions like academia, media, and as she mentioned about political will is something, and the work what you are doing through by organizing this webinar, I see a great effort towards it to increase that political will or commitment towards the children issue. I can again cite another example where in Odisha we tried with one young legislator, Mr. Anubhav Patnaik, how as a legislator he was committed and managed to create that environment within his constituency and created space for children to participate in decision making in utilizing MLA led fund effectively. That's also another example.
Yeah.
So slowly it is changing. It's taking time. It's not moving as expected, but things are happening. But at the same time, we have emerging challenges. For instance, last 8 months we have been facing a challenge which we none of us in past experienced it. So when I look at child protection as a system and the disaster management act, where the current our nation is currently governed under the disaster management act, child protection as a sector is not considered as an essential service. Maybe there is a need to rethink how we can bring the attention of policymakers on this issue. So these are some of the thought, and the issues, emerging issue, whether it is online safety or mental health issues, these are we need to annually review and add new areas of our work and change the approach also in some way. Yeah.
Thank you, Laxmi. Coming to Ghasiram Bhai. Ghasiram Bhai, you have worked with tribal communities. Tribal is not the appropriate politically correct word. I would say the indigenous communities of Odisha and some other states. Do you see any change or visibility of the program among the communities in the remotest part of the state or the other states you have worked with?
Thank you, Manoj, for bringing up these issues. Actually, this is a very interesting area that I've experienced during the work, especially on child rights. And before answering you, I must say I feel privileged that I'm sharing this platform with Padma, Shri, Sunitha, Krishnan, and Laxmi, Narayan, Nanda ji. And it's also a great experience that when a member of parliament is hosting such a kind of discussion, and it shows actually a change. It shows actually a change, and in these directions that gradually there has been an increase recognition of child right, but the realization of child right is still lacking at many ends. And especially when I can share my experience on working with ending child marriage work, the social norms, the patriarchal notions, the traditional norms, actually that plays a very vital role in that context. And the caste leader, not only the indigenous leader, there are other castes also. Like if you will go to the western part of Odisha, the Weaver community, the priest who actually worship in the Shiv temple, they are actually the OBCs. They have their own dynamics on this child marriage. There are certain, even in so-called the higher caste also, there are these importance of son, and like you can say Kanyadan is Mahapunya. So it taken as a kind of punya if you marry your daughter. So as early as you do it, then the benefit in that sense at heaven you will get it easily. So that kind of the thinking is there with every caste, not only with the scheduled tribes, but when we talked about this caste kind of things, being a person outside of that caste, or that tribes, speaking and criticizing about their norms is very difficult. So what we try in our intervention is we actually identified some of their progressive leader from that community and interacted with them, and check out what is the possibility of the increased discourse of these norms in their own community. And I feel happy here to share that there are several such kind of community like the PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, which are more vulnerable than the other indigenous community. They also came up and resolve in their community. They frame their rules, and the way the existing rules, the traditional rules are rigid. Similarly, this kind of new rules are also, they are making it that kind of implementation in their own community. So gradually the thinking is that are changing at the community level, and the practice also now more child friendly practices are also coming. So if you can go to the Paudi Bhuya, the Juang, the Kond in different parts of Odisha, you can see some amount of change, and that is reflecting in the reducing child marriage cases also. And Laxmi Bhai is a part of that whole discourse, and he also know that the change is visible in some of the area. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ghasiram Bhai. What I understand from the collective responses from our esteemed panelists, that the collective understanding of the situation is, yes, the response is there, the interventions are there, but that is very minimal or having very minimal impact, and yet we have to upscale, we have to re-engineer, we'll have to reimagine the whole process again. I think it is time now for us to review our work in the last 3 decades of UNCRC. Coming back to Dr. Krishnan. Dr. Krishnan, I remember you had a very successful caravan campaign in the state of Odisha. Would you like to share some experiences? What was your experience in the campaign? I was briefly associated with that campaign, I remember.
Swaraksha was a very interesting campaign which aimed at community awakening, moving from, like, as you very rightly said, in the last 3 decades, what are the changes you see? There's changes in semantics, changes in perspective, and changes in approaches. So, one of the changes that we brought in was moving from awareness to awakening, where we said just knowing about an issue will not bring change. You have to be churned from inside, and your soul has to be awakened. Only then you will be, pushed or compelled to take those personal decisions in your life that will bring change in your thing. So entire Swaraksha campaign was engineered and designed in a manner which will awaken a person's soul. And so the unique USP of the campaign was survivors were leading it. And the campaign was all on trafficking and sex trafficking. And we traveled through Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and came to Odisha. We traveled through every district of Odisha. And one of the greatest understanding that I gained in the whole process were 3 things. One is, you know, never consider somebody as a victim.
True.
If you're able to look at that person as not just a survivor, but an extraordinary, capable person who is capable of, bringing the change themselves. So look at every human being as a change agent, no matter who. And when we talk about children, then it means look at children as a change agent themselves, because they will bring the, change in culture, change in thinking, much far significant than we can do it. And that was my first learning from the Swaraksha campaign, that how we view the constituency that we are engaging with. Do we look at them as, affected or weak, powerless, and we as saviors giving them awareness and that extra input? Or are we looking at them as partners in change who have the ability, just that we need to be the catalyst to bring that out of them? That's the second thing.
Accelerate the
Yeah,
process.
accelerate the entire process. The second thing that I learned in the entire campaign, and I've said 3 states, and Odisha was my last point where we reached, is the power of community mobilization. You know, what one cannot do, regulations, policies, if the community is mobilized, that change is possible. You know, I remember this very a small example that happened in Berhampur during the campaign. We had the State Legal Services Authority, we had the District Legal Services Authority, we had a few judges, we had the police officers, everybody in that large community gathering, where this woman got up and said कि हम लोग जब we come to your court, आप हम लोगों को धूल के माफिक देखते हो, you treat us like
Yes.
dust, and when she said it in a
Trivializing
public,
the whole.
and when she said it in a public domain, in a very safe environment for her, that changed the mindset of the then District Legal Services Authority. Later he called me up and he says, "Man, that one sentence changed my entire perspective."
Triggered.
And every time anybody comes to my room now, first thing I do is I offer them a seat, I give them a glass of water, and I
Treat
give
with
them
dignity.
I give them a patient hearing to what they are saying. Now, what some 100 training programs could have achieved, could not achieve, could be achieved interface between the community and the authorities, an interface which was moderated, curated. It was not like just anything and everything, it was a moderated thing. So the power of a moderated, curated interaction is very, very high. And that is why a webinar like this has great relevance, because this is a moderated and a curated conversation. So we are looking at each and every human being who's listening to this agent, we are looking at each of them as somebody who can become the owner of this change that we are talking about, and not just as a recipient of change. The third thing I understood the hard way, I would say, is the power of convergence, the power of partnership,
Coming
and the
together.
power of synergy between stakeholders. If the civil society, if the political fabric, if the legislative fabric, if the executive fabric, if the judicial fabric, all of us can somehow find a way to come on the same platform, the change that we envisage is not going to be a distant dream. The problem with us is we all work in silos. All of us, child rights and people who are in the human rights domain, we are sitting and speaking in our own groups. We are talking to a converted group, and we are very happy doing that. We feel very satisfied. Okay, we have done our bit, because we're all speaking the same lingo. We all have the same semantics, and we understand. The change will come when we interact and converge our strengths with people who have completely different lingos, different semantics. And yet, if we can bring a common understanding between the 5 different ways of understanding things into one common understanding, that any child's right is absolutely non-negotiable. It is, each one of us is going to be zero tolerant on any violence against any child. If we can bring that collective synergy, because see, the change is not going to happen if Ghasiram ji and Laxmi Narayan ji and Sunitha, Krishnan, in somewhere we are going to be going on speaking of what has happened. Change will happen when Sujit ji, Ghasi ji, Laxmi Narayan ji, and every other stakeholders watching this, all of us with different understanding, different languages in expressing what we express, come together and create one language for the children, which is non-negotiable in our action. Those are some of the things that I learned from Suraksha campaign, and I'm so glad to say that I learned it at least 25 years after I started my journey. Now I've finished 30 years, But I'm glad that I had the humbling experience of learning those lessons from a campaign.
Your experiences, of course, Dr. Krishnan, keep us driven and keep us triggered, keep us on our toes to work further, work progressively. Drawing the cue from your last experience, let me come to Laxmi. As we understand that the whole child rights and child protection responses can be successful when the government and the civil society come together. So, do you think that the whole responses and the whole enactment, the whole execution, the civil society shares a larger part as it was intended or as it is intended? Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, Manoj. Yes, as we discuss about this collective power and collective strength, and each actor brings, certain amount of strength in the change process. So the challenge is that we need to identify at the first step, who is having what kind of strength. So civil society organization, as a stakeholder, I see there is huge role to play. If you look at our ICPS guideline itself, one of the key strategy it talks about is the civil society participation. But when you translate this policy decision into action, so there I see the implementation level gap. Now coming back to your question whether as it was intended or is intended. See, the point here is that as a civil society, at the policy level, I don't see that there is any gap at the moment. But what is missing is at the implementation level where we need more actors. As Dr. Krishnan mentioned, see, at the district level, at the panchayat level, at village level, the family or the children, they need that ecosystems where, they can go and approach someone who can guide them to address their immediate need or the problem which they are facing it. So that means available of right kind of information, linkages with the appropriate institution at the time of need, and also helping them how to fill this form. Say for example, if suppose I come across a child who is in need of care and protection, and he wants to lodge a complaint, or his family or her family wants to lodge a complaint, but they don't know what is the process to lodge a complaint. There I see the gaps, and where the civil society organization working whose strength area is the community mobilization, the social mobilization, a gap to address those gaps and supplement government efforts. So there comes the role of these two actors working closely. Similarly, I see the role of corporate bodies. If you look at child protection as a sector is emerging, it's new. Just we have 1 decade of journey. And if I take 2009 as a base year after introduction of ICPS, now it is CPS, and also it is totally diluted in the sense it is now merged under umbrella ICTS program. So as a sector, we are struggling to create our own identity. When I say we, I mean it's as people those who are working within these systems.
Yeah.
So
the whole community. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole community, we are struggling to keep. It's unlike to education and health. These are all established sector. But what we need to understand is that let's not struggle there, because this child protection multi-sectoral, it requires a multi-sectoral intervention. We need to identify the convergence aspect as he mentioned. I'd go a little further and say that both inter and intra-departmental convergence is the key to address certain issues. And there I see the role of civil society organization as a technical partner to support block and district administration. I would say go to the panchayat level also, because see, in reality, child protection committees are not functioning. How to make that vibrant child protection committee as a community protection mechanism is something where I see the role of civil society organization can play a bigger role. Similarly, if you look at the sectoral investment part of it, we have less investment as far as sector is concerned, both at the national level and state level. And some state they receive 60-40, 70-30, 90-10 model. So here I see the role of corporate bodies to come forward and design a program and support states who are with the better ideas in addressing those gaps. So where they are struggling to get the finance from central ministry government, or even if from their state, each of the sector we have a definite role to play. One is that we need somebody to anchor it. So that anchoring business can be done by the political leaders and the ultimate boss. So maybe as a MP, as MLAs, we can take that lead and then provide that direction to my in our constituency. I mean, what Mr. Sujit Kumar is doing is a great job, trying to bring different practitioners and academicians and the policymakers together. I remember we attended another similar kind of workshop, Kalani Dialogue, a few years back, 2 years back. He has made an attempt to bring all the practitioners, academicians together to think about how we can bring changes in the life of people with a small intervention. So I see there is a huge potential, and we need somebody to provide that leadership, and political leaders or the elected representative has a bigger role to play in this particular domain. That's the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Laxmi. Coming to Ghasiram Bhai. Ghasiram Bhai, I have seen you reaching out to the Commission for Protection of Child Rights every other day when I was there. So you must be reaching out to several other administrative departments and statutory bodies as well. What was your experience? The convergence we are speaking about, is that possible in the given circumstances, or do we need any extra efforts to leverage the effect of all other stakeholders and coming together? What is your experience on this?
Yeah, it's a very pertinent area. We should discuss more on this. And my mentor,
I'm drawing my
Kasturi,
questions from Dr. Krishnan's experience.
Sure. And my mentor, Kasturi Appa, is here also in this, have joined this discussion.
Namaste, ma'am. Namaste,
She
Kasturi,
has
ma'am.
been a inspiration in this process of convergence and bringing the issues to the front. And what has been my approach in this process is support, assist, provide all kind of technical expertise as and when it requires by any of the system. It may be a commission, it may be the department. Also simultaneously raise protest whenever it is required. So there should not be a kind of one way. I have experienced both kind of things. I file a PIL on this ending child marriage issue in the Odisha High Court against the Women and Child Development Department. But I also work with the department even to develop the annual report, to develop the state strategy action plan, to amend the Odisha child marriage prohibition rules. So in both way, we need to work with the system. Sometimes we need to build appropriate pressure. We need to continue our advocacy in maybe in policy changes, maybe in implementation of the existing policy, maybe fulfilling the gap. There is always a kind of gaps in between the policy intention and the implementation. So that's we need to identify and try to give appropriate pressure at appropriate level. In the other hand, sometimes that yesterday only I came from Bolangir. They requested me to give a kind of presentation to form and strengthen the district task force to end child marriage. So I was there. So that is also a kind of role we need to play, where we should bring our experience to this kind of body and to help them in strengthening that process, to develop an action plan at district level, to strengthen the panchayat level child protection committee. So all in both the front we need to work. And at present, I have been actually facilitating that a program with the support of UNICEF. We are working in 52 districts of 5 different states, and the whole objective is to strengthen the administrative system to facilitate the process, to make them more, to build their ability and make them more efficient to deal with the system. So that has been my approach. And there are different forum, like as you told, the Child Commission, the UN Commission, the National Human Rights Commission, all these are actually meant for that. Whenever they have that accountability of monitoring all those legislation which is in favor of child rights. So sometimes they also need some kind of support in one way, or and also sometimes they also need to be sensitized in certain aspects. So in both the way, we need to raise our issue in the commission. We need to support the commission for effective monitoring of this thing. One example I would like to share, as we all are experiencing winter at present, and we can see there are homeless parents sleeping on the footpath of the cities. And recently, we actually put forth these issues before the Child Right Commission, and Child Right Commission has issued a letter to all the to the collectors and the commissioner of the 5 municipal commission to take care of that no children should sleep in under the open sky. So these are some of the ideas that we can actually inbuild into the thoughts of all the institutions. So supporting them is really wonderful, but sometimes the practical problem is many of our things actually it's an individual interest driven thing. The system is not always accountable. It is the individual who is leading the office. It is the individual who is leading the commission, and the kind of interest they have. In that way, they took it forward. So sometimes we found that there are people who are not very actually really interested, or if they do something that is actually really without having a proper understanding of the right perspective. They recently, I'm in Sonpur. I just visited before 1 hour to a place where they have kept children of these homeless parents in a place. But the right approach is that is really missing in that kind of settings. So they just they have put them in a under a roof. But that is not actually the need. That you need to address the basic requirements. So all these kind of things are also simultaneously happening. So we need to raise all those issues simultaneously. We also need to support them for effective implementation.
Yeah, agree. And as we are discussing on the civil society partnership, Dr. Krishnan, what we are missing out is the philanthropic capital investment in the whole system of child rights. I have seen in many states. I have seen in Odisha. I have seen in other neighboring states of Odisha. The CSR is not very encouraging. It is not, as you said, that this field, this area is not prioritized by many quarters. So, but I have seen in your organization, I have seen Google is collaborating, Microsoft is collaborating with you. Can you give some advice on how this philanthropic capital can be invited, attracted, and can be poured in to the system?
Manoj, like any other stakeholder, I think we need to look at the corporate sector as a very potentially powerful stakeholder. But that stakeholder does not act by its own. They have their own background. They come from a business background. And most decisions that they would like to take is related to their profits. And even if they have to give 2% of their CSR amount, does it make business sense for them to give that 2%? Is something that they will constantly consider. Like, for example, um, many organizations, many corporates do not think it makes any business sense for them to invest in or give it to an organization like ours, which is working on trafficking and working against violence against absolute human rights violations against children, because there are so many security protocols, there are so many media protocols related to victims, and therefore They can't put up the photographs, and actually make a, get a brownie point out of
Yeah,
how
yeah,
socially responsible they are. And that is why it is so important today, like, to understand that even with corporates, we need to engage first at a deeper level. So when we say about community awakening and awakening the community, please also understand that we are including the corporates. We need to also awaken them about these issues, because they need to understand the 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 extent, magnitude, the manifestations, and the dynamics around child rights and child protection issues. And for them to understand that investing in this is, in the long run, making very, very big business sense, because something like philanthropy and charity is not a sustainable idea. It is a one time thought. You make somebody cry and make them give something is a one time thought. After the tears die down, their thinking dies down. But if you can make them internally accountable and responsible, the situation around us, like, I would say, all the adult created crisis, a casualty is a child. So if we
yeah,
can make every stakeholder understand that the problems that we see around us, all of us are part of that problem. We are the creators of it, we are the
yeah,
sustainers of it, and we
created by
are
us.
the motivators of it. And therefore, if we have to, you know, become the solution, we need to invest in that, we need to take that action. And I must say that, if you actually put in an effort, if you put in a concerted effort in that direction, it is not difficult. And that has been my experience working with Google, Microsoft, and various other, corporate companies, including HCL, who understood that I don't want publicity when you give me money. So with Microsoft, for example, we did that. We had a understanding that don't give us money. You know, ensure that you create employment opportunities for the survivors that we are, doing. So with everybody, we need to find new strategies. So very important for us as outsiders to understand that the corporate world is not one generic world. They're also unique. Each one have their own mandates, and within that mandate, we need to engage with them in a dialogue. And believe me, there are fantastic corporates who understand those things and understand that business is all not all about, how much of fame and visibility that you get. Business could be also about the right kind of changes that we bring outside the society, in the society. When we have hundreds of our children raped, or hundreds of our children trafficked for, we are not in a healthy society. And it's, if it is not a healthy society for me, it's not a healthy society for that corporate also. So their investment, in a manner which is child friendly, it protects the, rights of the children without compromising on the dignity of the persons that you are serving, also make business sense, because then they are investing in a society which is healthy for all. A safe childhood means a safe world, a safe community, a safe society, which is healthy for all of us. All of us live in a better way. So I think, like any other stakeholder, what Laxmi Narayan spoke about, interdepartmental convergence and interdepartmental understanding, which again, what he essentially wanted to say is we have to engage with each of them to bring those bridges between people. Similarly, we need to engage with the corporate world, and let us not look at this as philanthropy, let us look at it as a partnership models. Let us not look at donor, donee,
Giver and
government
receiver. Yeah,
sector, that,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
take out that model from our brain. Let's say that you and I are responsible for these problems. So I will do the job on the ground to, put it in action. You give me the support from the back. So both of us are equal partners. So I think it's a partnership model that works.
And a safer environment for children is your profit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's a profit not only for me, it's a profit for them also. They
True.
they get, better
No, I'm not. I'm not
resource
talking.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I'm saying is we also need to change our semantics. We need to move out of our charity semantics completely, this very saviors thing, where people think, oh, they're doing their good, they're doing some charity. I said, boy,
Welfare.
what charity are you doing? You are solving a problem of your own community. So what is a bloody charity you're doing? It's not like Sunitha Krishnan or Ghasiram or Laxmi Narayan has created some child rights violations. It's not Ghasiram who's doing all the, has created this concept that okay, all the children should be married. It's not. These are not problems that we created. These are collective problems. All of us have things. Okay, some of us chose to stand in the front and fight it. It doesn't mean that you are holier than thou outside the problem. You're also part of the problem. And now it's time for us together to change. So, which means that the approach we have, the way we speak, way we convey, and the way we engage with all the stakeholders, including stakeholder who has funds and donations and money in their disposal, has to completely change. I think this philanthropic and donor model is
Has to
something,
change.
It's something that will not bring change at all.
This is the kind of vibe we are getting from you, Dr. Krishnan, when we speak with you. The new ideas, the change in the thought process. Thank you for this thought leadership. Coming back to Laxmi, we have seen many models like in Odisha, Adopt a Home. In some other states, you might have seen some other programs that is engaging with the corporate world for attracting CSR funds for child protection program. Now, do you think that there is a time that the whole schedule of lists that is advised for the CSR investment should be changed? What is your advice for the policy level changes?
Thanks, Manoj. Let me try to give some ideas here. If you look at globally, many corporates, they have come together and agreed to follow CRBP, they call it Child-Led Business Principle Model. And they have agreed to invest resources from their annual turnover and committed resources actually. And we are seeing, day by day, others are also coming forward. Similarly, in the Indian context also, I don't have the list now, but I am aware about the fact that many corporate houses, they have adopted this child-led business principle model and accordingly spending their money. One big example I can cite here is the ETP, Ethical Tea Partnership, in Assam context again I am referring, where they invest quite a lot in the tea garden, where they created facility or the provision for children of tea workers, giving them education, skill training, and linking them with the employability. So this kind of what they do. Now coming back to the opportunity and revisiting our strategy, I see, as Dr. Krishnan mentioned, we need to continue this dialogue and help them to understand why it is important to invest on children and how this demographic dividend they can make huge in their favor. Because ultimately corporate, so they means business, and if they want good workforce, quality workforce, then they have to invest on these children. Without investing on children, it is impossible to get quality workforce for their own survival. And then how do we communicate this message to corporate world is something which we need to look at it, in a very simplified way. And child protection as a sector, I think often we fail to communicate this. When I say communicate the kind of language that we use, sometimes corporate people, they do not understand. Maybe, this is too much of superficial. So this is one biggest barrier I see. So let us break this barrier and try to reach out to the corporate world who is power with, resources, and help them, tell them this is how your money, if you invest 100 rupees, This is how it is going to change in the life of children, and which is ultimately going to, contribute to your business. This is one area. Second area also we have seen, though it's not directly linked, but again it's linked with whether it is aspirational district indicator or SDG goal. We cannot achieve anything, any of the indicator, unless and until we invest on child protection as a sector, as or issues. This is highly important, but less prioritized, and less prioritized because the sector is emerging. And then how do we communicate? Again, that's also another challenge. We need the participation of academic institution here to help us and to demystify certain component and then repackage it. So like the district mineral development board, and like here in Odisha, whether it is Kendujhar or Ramagod, many of the district we have huge amount of fund, unspent fund, which is available now. Now it is time for us, and district collector and district magistrate, we need to give some kind of additional support to this system, so that they can sit back, think, and then develop a strategy how to use this money which is unspent and lying there in the bank account. So there comes the role of civil society organization. Again, I would say, okay, we have money which is available in different buckets, but we do not have human resources. We do not have ideas, and when then the ideas can be again, I see here the participation of two universities, Every Institute of Management and Shri University. Young students are part of this exercise. Why don't they, get involved and then share their ideas and how to tackle problem? Maybe we need to create that culture where the young minds work with district administration and help them to use the funds more effectively. That's another area to look at it. So these are small steps which we need to take with a time bound approach. And I think again, we need strong leadership. That's what I'm saying. A strong one, not just one leader, but the group that we are referring here, whether it is media, CSO, district administration, or elected representative, how someone can bring, we need a rallying point and to bring this change possible.
Collective conscience
Yeah.
to enhance the sense of responsibility towards protection of children.
Yes,
You're
we
trying
need,
to say?
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that, we need to collaborate, converse, and at the same time, we need to challenge also the system at certain point of time. It's not that, we have to say now everything is going on, smooth, fine, and we need to challenge where there is a need to challenge, to bring systemic change. At the same time, we need to support the systems to perform it better way. So that's the way, that's the principle we need to adopt.
Basis what Laxmi said, Ghasiramji. Are you there? Yeah. Basis what Laxmi said, what I understood is we should now think out of box, and we should adopt more and more innovative ways to connect with the larger audience, the larger stakeholders, those who are unreached yet. So you have created many successful models. You have created many best practices. You have created many youth icons from the survivors. So would you like to share one story, one case study briefly with the panel and the audience? What was your experience creating that model or best practices?
Yeah, of course, of course. Prior to that, I would like to also little bit touch upon what Sunitha ji and Laxmi ji also discussed about the CSR corporate responsibility. One kind of the thought is if you see the data of child marriage, that near to 30% in the country, and there are districts where it is touching 50% also. The adolescent are actually getting married, and they are out of the growth process. So when we are talking about a developed nation where we are looking the role of the CSR, the industries in that, so they should contribute to the process, so that all these people should get out of this vulnerability and contribute to the growth of this nation. So that should be their accountability and responsibility. But the other two sides is there is also some ethical issue related to all these kind of things. If someone is actually displacing people, and by that the children are getting vulnerable, and in the other way they are contributing some peanuts to the whole process and taking a credit of that. That also we need to also make them accountable for all those things. And the other one is to whom they are actually with partnering. That Sunitha ji already highlighted that area, that they are taking that partnership. If looking forward for a kind of profit they want to do, they are partnering with the powerful kind of things and not to the partner at the ground. Then also these are certain aspects that we also need to introspect on the CSR model of contribution to the Coming back to your questions, that there are this is interlinked, and including the CSR group, everybody should be a ally, considered as an ally to this whole process. Like the persons who are actually accountable for violation of child right, they are also we are considering them as a ally to the process and trying to convert them as a change agents. Like the parents, like the society traditional leaders, like the tent house owner, like the priest, everybody is a part of sanctioning socially the child marriage. But now they are also coming forward and taking proactive step to end child marriage. And like Sunitha ji discussed, that if child themselves will be the kind of change agent, that is a model I would like to share. And we have promoted that UNICEF has tremendously helped us in that, and Laxmi Bai was there in that whole process of building this forum. So this Balya Vibaha Pratirudh Manch, that is a forum of the youth and adolescent who actually are directly affected by the child marriage. So they have now come together at panchayat level, block level, district level, and finally at the state level. And what we are doing is just to help them in building their leadership, building their communication skill, providing them some kind of information, taking them, like in the word of Sunitha ji, from awareness to awakening. And now they are actually working at the ground to make other actually really to be a part of the whole process. And I would love to invite you to visit Kandhamal sometime, where they have carried out this campaign of say no to child marriage and yes to school. That is actually a no cost but very effective kind of movement they have taken in that district. And apart from that, they, in some of the other districts also, they are very active. And now actually when I am speaking about child marriage, and someone who is actually really actually come out from the whole process, a youth and or an adolescent is speaking on the same thing, they are becoming more actually their appeal is more powerful. And recently in the launching of state strategy action plan, such youth leader came to the state platform and share the dais with the Honorable Minister WCD and share their aspiration. Aspiration as well as the struggle to say no to child marriage, the courage, actually really it's a courageous work. If you are saying no to child marriage, you are going against your parent, you are going against your all relatives, you are going against your community, you are going against your powerful traditional influential leaders. So all these courage now these youth and adolescent they are coming up with, when they are speaking at the state platform, the minister gets stood up from her chair and came to that girl and actually committed for all kind of supports to fulfill her aspirations. So this is a wonderful kind of model that it is coming up with youth and adolescent. And now the state also has designed it, converted it in a program called Advika. And other districts also actually having their own campaign taking this kind of thoughts, like Ganjam is now the collector, with the leadership of collector, a campaign has initiated called Nirbhaya Kadhi. The Koraput collector has initiated campaign Aparajita. The Nabarangpur has initiated Malyavanta Nandini. So all these are actually, the thought is from these same things. When we started organizing these youth and adolescent, and I'm again thankful to the Odisha Child Right Commissions and the then chairperson Kasturi Mahapatra to bring all these youth and adolescent to their foundation day and felicitated them. That was actually the first exposure that these youth and adolescent got at the state level, and media took it very seriously. They highlighted that, and now this has been a rituals kind of thing in the Child Right Commission, that every foundation day they are now felicitating these youth and adolescent. Earlier, it was never considered as a kind of achievement or heroic act. Now this has been an addition. So these are certain kind of things. Apart from that, in some of the district, the district child protection units and the district social welfare office jointly, they have taken up some kind of good models, like organizing the temple and the trustees of temples on saying no to child marriage, being in touch with the tent house owners. And I have seen a board in a tent house in Kandamal mentioning that those who are above age of 18, they should come to tent house. So these kind of sensitization has actually came up, and it's not only in case of addressing these issues of child right. It should not be a one direction, unidirectional kind of approach. We need to actually consider that everyone should be involved in this whole process, starting from the corporate to the media. Media people has helped us a lot. We also felicitated them in some of the events. They brought up all these issues in the forefront, and Laxmi bhai can share in our sharing in the initial period in 2017-18, when we talked about child marriage issues. Nobody was ready to listen that it is a issue exists in Odisha. So these media people came forward at that point of time, and we provided all this kind of information to them, and it's collaboration of civil society and the media that issue got highlighted. So all these kind of possibility we need to explore, where we should consider everyone is an ally to establish, to realize the rights of the children.
Thank you, Ghasiram, for sharing your experiences, your field level experiences with us. And truly it is enlightening. And before I move from you to Dr. Krishnan, let me connect with my colleagues in the organizing team. Are we getting any questions in the Facebook comments, or are we getting any questions in the this chat room? If yes, then
yes.
Okay. Professor Kamala, please put the question.
Yes. We'll share. Before that, if just I can say, has MP sir joined? Sujit sir, Honorable MP sir, he was about to join at 5. Okay. Professor Subbarao, have you joined? Dean sir from Shri.
Yeah, Professor Subbarao is there. Welcome, sir.
Professor Subbarao sir is a partner of this initiative. Professor Srinivas Subbarao, welcome to this platform. And if you have anything to say or a message or a question, please go ahead.
You have to unmute yourself.
You are on mute, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me, Mr. Kamala. I'm first of all thankful to Mr. Sujit Kumar for inviting the Faculty of Management Studies of Shri University, being a partner institution. I'm happy to know that you have completed this brilliant week of idea sharing and business, building bonds across experts and policymakers around India. I'm aware that you have created a positive buzz around child rights in the sector. I thank Mr. Kamala for representing Shri University and working with the Honorable MP's office and collaborating with other important partners like Kaling Kusum and Xavier University. As a Dean of a B school, I see a lot of value in these deliberations. As you focus on several important dimensions of child rights, may I suggest you to look at the issues where we can contribute. For us, issues like children and business, children and CSR, and the innovation, and in the young innovators and young entrepreneurs will be very innovative and useful for the management graduates and the doctoral research scholars in the field of management and commerce. So I propose to your team to look into the how children are affected by the business in your next series possible. With these words, let me thank again the Honorable MP, who is also earlier my colleague with Shri University as a visiting professor of public policy and management, in conceptualizing the fantastic webinar series. And I'm also agreeing what Mr. Laxmi Narayan ji proposed, that young minds to be involved in the various government and district level activities and schemes of the government, which is very much essential. And we also involving our students of MBA and BBA, some of the tribal development issues and the government schemes, performance of the government schemes. I congratulate and thank to Sunitha Krishnan ji and Manoj Tripathy ji and the Jarishma Panda ji for their sharing their field level experience, particularly for their great thoughts in the field of child rights. And once again, I'm thanking on behalf of the Shri University for giving this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Professor Subbarao. Thank you so much for your message. There is a lot of value already you might have heard. Ghasiram sir, Sunitha ma'am, and Manoj sir and Laxmi sir talking about how business and corporate and social responsibility are interconnected. You cannot think anything unless you are thinking about children. So Honorable MP Sri Sujit Kumar sir has joined. May I request you to, sir, if you can spare a few minutes and share your message, and you conceptualize this webinar series and the way forward. Thank you so much. So please go ahead. Over to you, sir. Sujit, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible and visible both. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Das. Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be part of this concluding day of the dialogue series on children and SDG. I am speaking to you from the hospital, so to say, having been diagnosed with COVID, but I'm absolutely stable with the good wishes and prayers of all well-wishers and friends like you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you. The Global Development Dialogue series was conceived about 2 months ago by my office, and I must at the outset acknowledge and thank uh, the effort and the commitment of Professor Das, Swades, Sunil, and everyone in the office who have put in great deal of effort in actualizing this series. The idea really was to bring stakeholders, whether they're policymakers, people's representatives like us, academia, civil society leaders, people from all walks of life really, to get together and to offer them a platform to deliberate and to have a meaningful discourse, and then some of the ideas and suggestions from this discourse and this conversations would be compiled and would help not only me as a member of parliament, but also many other uh, elected representatives like me in carrying forward the recommendations of the dialogue. In 2018, we had initiated a similar dialogue called the Kalani Dialogue, which was held in the district of Kalani in Odisha, where we had stakeholders from different walks of life taking the pain to travel to Kalahandi to discuss on issues pertaining to development, whether it's migration or hunger, poverty, agriculture, so on and so forth. And the idea was to take the stakeholders to a place where these issues are lived on a day-to-day basis. And in fact, the tagline of the conference itself was, or the conclave itself was, talking development where it matters the most, because we felt it is imperative for people to travel to places like Kalahandi, where issues pertaining to development are lived on a day-to-day basis. And with that objective, and with also the additional objective of showcasing the remarkable success story of Kalahandi over the last several years, the development success story, we had invited people from all walks of life from across the globe to travel to Kalahandi. And the second edition of Kalani Dialogue was to be held this year again in Kalahandi, but unfortunately, COVID restricted us from doing that. And this Global Development Dialogue series is sort of a substitute to that. And the first dialogue in the series was I think on the topic of SDG, about to localization of SDG, and then we also had Professor Das. Remind me, what was the first topic?
First, we did the SAGI.
The SAGI. Okay. So the first discussion on the series was on the Sansad Adarsh Gram Panchayat Yojana, which was received very, very well. And Honorable Prime Minister himself has been urging members of Parliament to adopt one or two panchayats in the respective constituencies to showcase models of development. And then we spoke on how we could actualize the sustainable development goals in our parts of the world. And then this week-long discussion series is on children, given that 14th of November being National Children's Day, and yesterday was the International Day of Children. And my office and Kalinga Kusum Foundation have done some amount of work in partnership with UNICEF and others on issues related to children. And we have Sunitha ji here, who has been such a immense source of inspiration to all of us. She has been working in the area of the protection of children from sexual abuse and sexual exploitation. We have Laxmi, we have Ghasiram Babu, Manoj, Swati, and each of them is a societal leader. And the object, and Professor Rao's, and the object of this development series is precisely this: to bring credible voices, to bring experienced voices like you all, to share your perspectives, to share your views on how we can then take the learnings from these discussions forward. and we intend to compile the learning from this week-long discourse into a booklet. Professor Das, is that the thought process? And then we'll share the learnings from not only this session but from all the sessions with you all. And the idea really is to carry forward this conversation. This is not just a one-off event, but the idea is to have year-long and carry forward the discussions thereafter, so that we all can learn from each other. And I'm particularly grateful to each one of you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, your expectations, and I hope that I'll be able to work on some of these ideas, some of these expectations, some of these thought processes, both during the intervention in the floor of the House, in the Parliament, and elsewhere. And I'll be picking your brains on and off. I'll be reaching out to you all. I'll be deliberately pestering you, bothering you with more suggestions and guidance, and your mentorship is something that I'm really looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable MP sir. Just to remind everyone that what sessions we had. The first session in this International Week was on SDGs, children and communication. Second session was on participation. Third session was on, one second. Can someone mute? One second. So third session was on education and environment. Fourth session was on health and nutrition. Fifth session was on children and literature. Sixth session was child protection, stories from the ground, from DCPOs. And last session also focusing on child protection, having a national and global perspective. And this has been strengthened with Sunitha ma'am's participation, gracing the occasion and adding her insight. So these are the topics that have been covered during this 7 days. And we, as Honorable MP Sir has already mentioned, we intend to take this exercise forward and also kind of dedicate a particular time or a few days in each month to the children related issues and reach out to every one of you and also every one of your networks as well. Over to Manoj sir to take forward the discussion. And also there are questions from people. So I will also read some of those questions. And if someone wants to unmute and ask the question also, feel free to do that as well.
Thank you, Professor Kamla. Before I reach out to our honorable panelists, Ms. Ipsita has raised her hand. Do you want to speak something or ask any question? Please unmute yourself and tell. You had raised your hand. Ms. Ipsita
By
Agrawal?
mistake, might be by mistake. That's a possibility.
Okay. No, it's a setup.
Yeah.
So we are left with only 9 minutes of the Global Development Dialogue. I would first come to Ghasiram Babu. Please share some of your concluding remarks. You would be closing after that.
Yeah,
I'll come to each of the panelists.
As the Honorable Member of Parliament is here, so I will take this as an advantage and thank him for his
Please
ideas.
continue.
And
please go ahead.
as I am very focusedly working on the issues of ending child marriage for last few years, the recent policy development is that the government of India has constituted a committee and reconsidering the marriage age of girl child. And the apprehension is actually again it has came from a presentation by the Ministry of Finance in the Parliament that it is actually supposed to be enhanced to 21. So we as a practitioner at the ground actually looking this as a little problematic because as we don't have that kind of infrastructure, the school are actually going to closed because of low enrollment. There are other several issues that youth and adolescents should engage with. The issues of fulfilling of their aspiration, that infrastructure is required for that. If that is actually not adequate now, and if just only the amendment of the act will be there and it will be to the age of 21, then it may actually create some kind of issues and may criminalize the children, may criminalize their parents, and can create a unwanted situation in many contexts. So that is one area that where we also need to deliberate, and we recently had a conversation with the young people throughout the country and have worked out some report also, and I'll be happy to share that. So that is one area where we need to actually seek the support of policymakers in that process. So the conclusion kind of thing that I would like to share that, and at the end, like what I said in my previous kind of interaction is that everyone should be the ally to protect the right of the children, and that we are trying for to bring all the sections of the society. It may be the traditional leaders, it may be the kind of service provider to the marriage, everyone. And the other one is like the new kind of issues are emerging. Recently, I experienced one such incident. I myself got a message on my WhatsApp, and finally I found that is a boy of 14-year-old. The messages were actually really we need to think about that. So these are certain area, the online safety, the privacy kind of thing, that is some of the emerging area. And especially when I am talking about this, Odisha is actually really having the highest number of cases lodged on child pornography. And none of the case register under the POCSO that has been actually really dealt with in the last year. So these are certain area where we need to again discuss and redirect our actions in that line. So thank you very much for organizing such a wonderful interactions, and I'm hopeful that it will definitely give us some direction to take our action forward. And I have learned a lot from the presentation of Padma Shri, Dr. Sunitha Krishnan, and Laxmi Bhai has always been so helpful in reshaping our thoughts. Thank you very much, Manoj, Kamalaji, for actually it's a privilege to be a part of this process. Thank you, Sujit ji, for organizing this global development dialogue.
Thank you,
Manoj sir.
Ghasiram, for your concluding remarks. Yeah, please go ahead.
Manoj sir, we can extend if required. If there are questions, maybe we can go a little ahead. It doesn't matter if
Sure.
it goes to up to 5:45 or 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
with consent of the panelists. Okay.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
no problem.
So coming to Laxmi, your concluding remarks, please, Laxmi.
Okay, so it's difficult to say concluding remark, but let me reflect.
No, for this
Yes.
episode, yes.
Yes. Let
Yeah.
me just reflect again. As we are celebrating Child Rights Week, that was the context for hosting this webinar. When I look at UNCRC and as our Bible for the, doing business related to children, out of 54 articles, 29 articles directly linked with child protection. That's the importance we need to understand, and we need to demystify it and help other stakeholders to understand its importance in their business. So that's one critical thing we need to understand. Second, as a young nation, India as a young nation full of adolescent and young people, up to 40% of our total population, the young population. How do we invest systematically in them to explore their potential for nation's growth is something which again we need to think and rethink in our planning process and involve them in the nation building. That's another area which our Honorable Prime Minister all the times is focusing. So, but this requires, as I mentioned, at the grassroots level, we need to translate these ideas into action. We need more actors. The third area I want to emphasize here is that, see, it's easy to say here that, it's a collective responsibility. But when you are using this word collective responsibility, let's try to understand each other's role and how best, what is the value that I can bring into the topic when addressing this issue is more important. And then when you are developing, whether it is a GPDP exercise or block level exercise or district level exercise, identify the strength of each actors and then translate those strengths into actions with shared responsibility, something which we have to invest. For this, we need continuous dialogue. And webinar, global dialogue like this nature will further help to filter our thought in this regard. Last but not the least, the most important factor, as I mentioned in the beginning, is political will is more important than technical knowledge in its social transformation process that we are talking. I am fully convinced of this. I've seen very closely the Kupam experiment that we did it during Chandrababu Naidu's period in late 90s and with Janmabhoomi Reconstruction Program and some other initiative. What I have seen how leaders' commitment, elected representatives' commitment has transformed one of the most punishment zone, which is Kupam. I am sure Dr. Sunitha Krishnan is aware about this thing. They transformed the punishment zone into a most developed, pocket of that undivided Andhra Pradesh. So let's hope for the best. I am sure young honorable MP like Sujit Kumar will bring back changes and bring more people on board. And we are all committed to see these changes, if not in our lifetime, at least our children, the next generation children, we can see the changes and overcome these, long social norms or the rigid traditional practices which are harmful in nature. With this, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts.
With these words of hope, let us connect with Dr. Krishnan. Dr. Krishnan, your parting words, please.
I hope this is not my parting words and all. Please,
No, I'm.
Manoj, don't give such a
I know.
sentimental thing.
I know.
I do
I know.
have to
I am
such
using emotional
webinars again and
semantics. Yeah.
again. But it's lovely to see Sujit Bhai, and I don't know what is the kind of bad vibes we are having. That last time also you were not well, and this time also you're not well. So last time it was COVID test, and this time you're already COVID. So I don't know whether I should say congratulations from moving from negative to positive again, but speedy recovery. Two things I feel very, very strongly about, and I wouldn't say as my parting remark, but I would say as a remark that all of us need to carry with us. I see a lot of academic institution in this group, and one of the things that I feel very strongly about is sometimes some of these issues, like child safety, child protection, becomes a social work idea. So MSW students will learn about it, or BSW students will learn about it. It doesn't become a community idea and a community thing. So I would, one of the things I would request all the academic institutions participating in this webinar would be, how can we make this as a part of our grading system, where students, whatever they learn in their classrooms, they can apply it in the ground to ameliorate some situations like this. So how can I study business, I'm a student of business school, and how can I apply business ideas to change, say, child safety issues in my community? If that can become a part of not an extracurricular activity, but as a part of a grading system, that you will get extra points for applying your business ideas to be making sustainable business practices in the community, which will also protect the children around it, or what is ethical businesses and things like that. Working with district administration, working with ICPs, working with DCPUs, and applying your ideas that you've learned in the classroom from the specialization or studies that you have, and don't make that as some kind of a NSS activity. Make that as a proper graded activity where you will get points, and it'll become part of your thing. I think we need today, what we need is not activists in this country. What we need is accountable citizens wherever they are. If you are a citizen doing business, we need ethical business practices there, which does not violate the rights of children or any other human. You need politicians. We need to look at politicians who understand that children are a big priority. They are not like a rubber stamp in your thing, but they are part of your larger thinking, because if you're talking about a safe society, you need to first make sure your children in the society are safe. So how do we make everything that we study as an applied knowledge, which every politician can apply in their political world, every teacher can apply in their teaching world, every educational institution, any domain that you. The second thing that I would like to say is, can we revisit and review what is the performance indicator of a state? Do we judge a state by the GDP and blah, 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 and all the other indicators? Can we make indicators of, say, child safety as one of our indicators to judge whether this is a developed state? So if we take the example of Odisha, how long does Odisha wants to carry this crown that a huge number of children from your state get trafficked for labor exploitation? Is that a crown that you want to carry it? Does that actually define Odisha? And therefore, if Odisha has to prioritize and say, okay, now we are moving to development, it means that one of the indicators would be crime against children. We have reduced the number of children from our state who are going to be labor trafficked. We have reduced our child marriage to this numbers. We have reduced number of children who are sexually abused. We have reduced number of children who are, who are subjected to, say, sexual exploitation through online means. I work closely with Odisha State, and I know what Ghasiram was saying, because I was one of the first persons to, unravel the entire sex scandal of rape videos which came from Odisha and from Bhubaneswar. the famous Kalia Sahu case. And in that case, the number of videos that we got from Odisha of children who are being sexually exploited. So can we take all these crime, against children as our scale in how we judge our state, whether we are developed or underdeveloped? If that becomes a priority, our election manifestos will change. The way we will get into, campaigning will change. The way we will, narrate or create the construct of our conversation with the community will change when children become number one in our thinking. I think it's high time we started constructing the narrative of what is development. If our children are being abused, if our children don't have a safe space in our homes or in our societies to live, if our children are subjected to situations where their development, their progress is completely thwarted, if our children are neglected and exploited by all of us, we can never call our country, as a country that is moving forward. It will never be India shining. So can we keep these indicators as our performance indicators? That is something that we need to look at. And I hope each one of us finds those indicators for our own self to define how are we building our families and thereafter building our community.
This is the take-home thought, Dr. Krishnan, for us, for all of us. And thank you for these inspiring words. Definitely, this will be converted into a journal, if not a journal, then a book that is promised by Professor Kamla. And thank you, Dr. Krishnan. Thank you, Laxmi Bhai. Thank you, Ghasiram Bhai. And I am immensely thankful to Honorable MP Shri Sujit Kumar ji and Professor Kamla for giving me this opportunity to be associated with my good old friends and the dignitaries like Dr. Krishnan. Thank you very much. Now we are, should we open for question or should we?
Manoj, can I say one thing, please?
Yeah, please.
There was a question on the chat box on how can we ensure that child abuse cases are not reported.
Please,
I just want to answer that question.
Sure.
Laxmi had already answered it, but I also want to add my bit to Laxmi's answer. I think child abuse cases should be reported, but the question is what kind of reporting? Right now, the entire focus of reporting is the victim, which victimizes the victim further. Entire focus of the reporting is sensational to create some kind of a titillating value. Can we, and that is one thing that we have not done in this whole conversation, how do we engage the media? How do we engage the media to, report things right? When a child is getting abused, sexually exploited or raped, there is a person who's abused, that's a child, but there is also an abuser. Do we talk about that? Do we talk about the abusers? Do we know the abusers around us? Do we even have that kind of conversation? Media is a big player in bringing those perspectives outside. So it is not that we should not report about child abuse. We need to report about child abuse, but report it differently, ensuring that not just the privacy and dignity of the child is upheld, but the right perspective in the crime should come out, because
the criminality.
Yeah, the criminal, the offender, the mindsets, the complacency, the lethargy of the system, those are the things that needs to be highlighted. Forget that little one and her photograph and her face and her story and her violation, that has happened. That's a fact, but there is a whole contributory factors to it. So can we change the narrative around it? And that is why there's an important need to engage with the media to do the right kind of report.
Right.
Thank you very much.
So Manoj sir, Kamla here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I will just share one line. When I was in Australia, I intended to work with children. So children means tutor, and they will go to classes. So university wanted that you have to have a work with children certificate. So what it means, do I have a record of criminal behavior or intimidation behavior against children or violence against children record? Then what they do, there is a in police station, there is also kind of all records are there, photographs are there. So there was a discussion in Australia then that naming and shaming, that people who have been already convicted by the court of law, their details should be available on the website. Right. So I don't know, because I'm not a professional lawyer. So but what happens to the concept of one is a protection, that is one everyone should know. Second is having the ability to giving that person the ability to also reform. So I don't know the theories of justice as it comes to Sujit sir is much more aware about that. Maybe he might add. So that is what the discussion going on, naming and shaming. And when you are required to work with any university, any college, any school, today we do not know. Teachers can also become abusers in whatever way. Abuser necessarily doesn't mean only physical harassment, right? We can do mental harassment, other things as well. So we do a lot of damage to that. So people do not have a standard in teaching, neither in B.Ed, neither in M.Ed, neither in certificate course in education, to include that child safety, what to behave, what not to say, what to say in the classroom is also an important aspect. They train that in Monash University. They say that, okay, if you are going to teach to my children, which are 50 or 16 member, and I'm sending you, they are in your custody, right? So how you should behave, they train us. So that is what one point of my experience. I don't know whether it makes sense.
Yeah. We can include this experience as well.
Yeah. To some extent, just to add to the discussion, to some extent, in 2014, the Women and Child Development Department, Government of Odisha, has a notification in this line, how to behave in a particular circumstances. So to make the institutions child friendly, there are a lot of protocol design in that. But unfortunately, the accountability part is missing in that notification. But it is a wonderful notification, let me tell you. And that same notification also has been followed by the STSC Development Department later on. So there are actually circulars and orders in this regard. To report, what not to report, how to deal with that. But we need to also implement all those kind of instructions and circulars. So that is one area. Yeah, thank you.
Professor Kamla, do you want me to continue, or should we
no, if any pressing questions are there or comments or
yeah, are you getting
there?
some questions in Facebook or
yes, I have got one more question.
Okay.
Sir, this is the center has drafted an SOP for the rights of street children. So this SOP 2.0 comprehensively addresses both protection issues of children living in the streets and strengthening of their families. So how do you see the street children problem, which may be in Odisha, in elsewhere as well? The Save the Children has mapped around 2 lakh children in different cities in the country. So how do you see this center new draft is going to change? If anyone is perhaps you all will be aware that this was the discussion going on for last few months.
I think I should come to Laxmi for this.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. No, we have, as Ghasiram mentioned, we have, n number of SOPs and guidelines and legal framework available. But the question is, how many of us really are familiar with, number one, internalize it and then practice it? Say for example, he mentioned about 2014. I mean, Odisha is the first state who issued all kinds of circular during RTMM's period as WCD secretary to ensure that CCA is this includes child protection policy, child safe environment, and while recruitment, as you mentioned, Professor Das, here also we make it mandatory for all the CCI functionaries to produce a police certificate, verification certificate. But the whole question, larger question is this kind of attitude and behavior, which is so deep rooted and it's linked with our cultural practices. To change this, it needs time, and also we need to have long-term, investment. As I said, an academic institution has a bigger role to play. Say, for example, whether it is SCRT who produce teachers, or DIET who produce teachers, So they need to change in their teaching module, teaching pattern, and also inbuilt is this as part of the training curriculum. So similarly, if I cite another example, if you look at Juvenile Justice Care and Protection 2015 Act, so for the first time, Government of India introduced corporal punishment as a punishable offense. But how many teachers are actually aware about this fact? That this is a punishable offense and you can attract jail and fine. One is awareness, second one is the practice, and third one is the knowledge and the practice, and third one is that it requires, again I'm emphasizing the same thing, the collective responsibility and the role of different institutions in this. Unless and until we united against a particular evil, whether it is street children, children living in street, not street children, or children in need of care and protection, the whole range of category of children, I think it would be difficult for us, and we may issue circular SOP or the guidelines or bring or amend another set of laws in favor of children, but it's ultimately at the grassroots level, people who's implementing laws, who is implementing programs and policies. We need strong technical people there, and to support that, we need participation of civil society organization, participation of media, participation of academic institution in this regard. Yeah, thank you.
In fact, I believe that if the existing law and whatever SOPs, advisories have been brought till now, let's stop there. If just what we have can be implemented, India will be the safest country in the world for everybody.
True.
All that we need is, and I would reiterate and add on to Lakshmi's point on political will also, because so many things, it's all fashionable to write it on a paper and even bring it as a law, but you don't even put the budget for it. How do you talk about child-friendly courts? Now tell me, in Odisha, how many child-friendly courts are there in every district?
10, I think.
So how many districts are there? There are 30 districts.
30, yeah.
So in 30 districts, you have 10 courts. So every state has these big gaps. So put your money where it matters, and make whatever you have brought it on paper. Don't extra. I don't want even 1 centimeter extra. I want only what is there on paper that is being brought as legislation. Forget the SOPs and advisories. Those are, again, statement of intent, not being implemented anywhere, but just the legislation. If we can put in our might and might and our budgets into it and make sure that is implemented, half the problem is solved. POXO cases in
Government, just an addition.
Yeah, in all the states that I'm working, POXO cases are pending for 5 years and 6 years. You imagine that in 1 year the case should be over. Cases are pending for 5 years and 6 years. So I think what is today required is action and implementation, and that is completely dependent on political will. And Chandrababu Naidu sir's example was given is a real example, because I was part of that entire campaign, and you could see things happening. Political will kind of changed like this. Everybody was talking a different language. So I think important point is, again, from this webinar, the next important point is, after this next 10 minutes or whenever you want to close this, I can see Sujit Bhai is already in the hospital and still being made to listen to all this. After
so this sir is saying we should continue till 6.
Yeah, but my point here is, after the 6 o'clock, let us take 6 as our cutting point. How many of what we have said is going to be implemented by each one of us? What is the takeaway for us, for each one of us personally? And what is that one thing that each one of us is going to bring change in our own lives related to child protection and child safety? If we can take that pledge and be clear on that, I think we have done a great webinar.
Yeah, can't agree more. True.
Just
so,
an addition.
Ghasiram, please go ahead.
Actually, yesterday only this NCPCR has issued that guideline. But one thing what we need to discuss, because prior to that, I also had an kind of interactions with the child right commissions and Child Rights Commission issues that instruction to all the collectors. But the area that we have worked out there, as I am also a part of the state level monitoring committee of the Shelter for Urban Homeless, and the Shelter for Urban Homeless program under the National Urban Livelihood Mission having a greater scope to accommodate this problem. There are certain implementation issues to it, because children in street are not always abandoned. They are also with the parents, and SUH has the capacity to accommodate all those people. So there is a need of convergence between the Housing and Urban Development Department and with the Women and Child Development Department to work on these issues. There has been some kind of initiation that to make the city beggar free, but it has been a forceful kind of issue. But the SSCPD can also come to this discourse. They also have the rehabilitation program on beggars. So all these 3-4 stakeholders, if they can come together, then the issues of children with street can be addressed. And I'm going to attend the state level monitoring meeting on this Monday. And I already have written to them, and I will again raise this in that committee meeting. And they are expected to also write a circular to all the ULBs. But again, there are ULBs who are actually not been very interested to make the SUH functional, because they think that all these people, those who are coming from other state to our cities, are burden to us. The perspective of right is really lacking on that. So these are certain area we need to work on, the attitudinal issue, behavioral issues, and most importantly, what we already discussed throughout this discussion is convergence. And at present, we need a better convergence of especially the housing and urban development, and the WCD, especially the DCPU and the ULBs need to coordinate with each other to address this children in street issue.
Thank you very much, Ghasiram bhai, and thank you for this meaningful discussion of 1.5 hours. Now coming back to Professor Kamla. Professor Kamla, do you want me to continue, or should we close now?
We can. You can give a round of vote of thanks. I will give vote of thanks from the organizer side.
Yeah, please.
You go ahead. Yeah. You go ahead. You can thank.
I have already completed my part now.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Manoj sir. This is your second session, and you have been a key part in also in curating the yesterday's session, which was the child protection stories from the ground. You also helped us to reach out to DCPUs. I'm very happy that you took keen interest in this, despite your busy schedule and other pending work as well. So thank you to the moderator and speaker. You are both moderator and speaker. You have added a lot of value in discussing this. So thank you to Manoj sir. Thank you to Dr. Sunitha, Krishnan ji. Your presence itself is actually motivation to rethink about what we are doing and how to do best and what lies forward. And true to that spirit, you added that we should have some takeaway, at least one takeaway when we are going from here, and implement that in a personal life, and also take that forward if there is something to change that we are capable of doing that. For example, Ghasiram sir has the capacity to make a change at the community level, and Honorable MP sir has a possibility to take that to the national level. Narayan sir does that at the UNICEF level. We do it at the university level. Whatever we have the label, family and our workplace, if we can take that forward, that would be a good tribute to the discussion that we have been doing on that. Thank you, Sunitha, Dr. Sunitha Ji Krishnan, on that. That was a very insightful, fascinating intervention from your side. Laxmi Narayan ji, you have been fascinating throughout this webinar, providing insights, providing details about rules and regulation, and talking that implementation, that matters, not just about talking about rules and regulations. So yes, rules and regulations are guidelines. They support us, provide us the pathways. So thank you for providing that perspective, that collaborative implementation or collective responsibility sounds like a big idea. No one does it. So for example, in our classroom, we say, सारे लोग जाते वक्त अपने दरवाजा और खिड़की बंद कर लेना, कोई नहीं बंद करता. So you give that order for everyone is order for none. So like that, so you nailed it rightly and said that collective responsibility should start from individual as well. So connecting to Sunitha ji, what she said. So Ghasiram sir brought very inspiring examples from the ground and shared that his decades of work is bearing fruit. And also there are people who are themselves have been victims of child marriages. They themselves have become champions against child marriages. So this kind of changes have been there. And I would like to thank Honorable MP Sujit Kumar sir, who also in his earlier avatar, when he was conceptualizing this Kaling Kusum Foundation's collaboration with UNICEF, he also conceptualized the program for child-friendly constituency in collaboration with UNICEF and the then MLA of Khandapada of Nayagarh district, Anuva Patnaik sir. So they could actually do the foundational work on child-friendly constituency, where there were several cases of people who have actually fought against child marriage, or they were children who were they were child brides. They themselves have become now champions against child marriage. Themselves have become examples. So Sujit Kumar sir was also one of those inspirations and founding, you can say founding father of that idea of child-friendly constituency, which is a unique idea. And Laxmi and Nanda has been a very, you can say, active co-creator and co-partner in that exercise as well. So that is where you can imagine where our Honorable MP draws inspiration from, and why children is central to his thinking. So he is also a member of the Parliamentarians for Children, and would like to take this discussion forward at the national level. And we are looking at this global development dialogue to become a productive platform where certain changes in ideas, certain changes in policies, certain changes in practices, certain changes in syllabus and training practices actually emerge from here. So our next task, which is onerous task, will be to compile these suggestions, transcribe these discussions, and bring them into edited book formats as well, and wherever possible, create discussion papers, policy briefs as well. So all of you, thank you so very much. And this has been a fantastic learning journey for last 7 days. And there couldn't have been a more fitting finale to the 7 days of focus on the International Children's Week. Manoj Tripathy, Ghasiram Panda, Laxmi and Nanda, and above all, Dr. Sunitha Krishnan.
Professor Das, with your permission, if I can have 30 seconds.
Please go ahead. 2 minutes, time 3 minutes.
No, 30 seconds is more than enough. Thank you. I think it all boils down to the priority, what Sunitha ji was mentioning, and I have witnessed it firsthand, the lack of priority on issues related to children. I'll give you a very quick example. Since becoming MP, I have attended 2 meetings of DISA. DISA is the district level development meeting chaired by the collector. And each of the DISA meeting runs for 3 to 4 hours. And in a 3 to 4 hour meeting, less than 6 to 7 minutes were devoted to discussion on children. On both the meetings, I saw how little time was being devoted to discussions on children. Agreed, you have other priority issues. You have issues related to COVID, issues related to infrastructure, about so on and so forth. But 7-8 minutes on the 4 hour meeting on children, does that not tell us the priority we are according to children issues? So that's number one. Number two is, in the last conversation also, I was mentioning that it's not that politicians or political leaders do not want to work on issues of children. It's the sheer lack of awareness. I'm shocked at the lack of information and awareness they have. And if we disseminate, we bring to their notice all these issues, then I'm sure they are as keen to work on these issues. It's not lack of political will. Yes, there is lack of political will because children cannot vote. They are not a vote bank. They cannot form a constituency. All these issues are there. Hence, children issues are relegated to the background. How many manifestos have you seen? How many political party manifestos have you seen talking of children issues? But despite all that, most politicians would definitely want to give their best and take up the leadership mantle if it's brought to the notice. So my sincere request to each of us, it would be to engage with politicians, to engage with political leaders, political parties, and bring these issues to their awareness, to their cognizance. And secondly is the role of media, what Sunitha ji was again, referring to. How many media stories have we seen in this last 8-9 months talking of the impact of COVID on the psychological, the physical, the emotional, the mental, state of children. And arguably children are the worst sufferer of COVID-19. But hardly any stories have come out, hardly any media reportage have been done on this issue. So again, media has a key role to play. Media has a key role to play, and this is where we have to use our contacts, our network in the media to ensure that children issues are not relegated to the background. So these are, I think, my concluding remarks, I would say. And uh, my sincere request again would be to engage with politicians, and political leaders on children issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you on behalf of MP Sir's office, Honorable MP Sir's office, from partners from Sri University, Xavier University, and Kalinkusum Foundation, and the extraordinary panel that we had today. Thank you so much, and we'll meet again and soon.
Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.